Hello, I'm Zhu Shangrong, the literary editor of Shima Storytelling. Recently, our Exma Storytelling has featured various themes like Psychology Week, Social Sciences Week, Life Week, Science Week, and so on, bringing a lot of helpful insights to everyone. In literature, some might ask, what's the use of literature? Let me start with an example from the life of Arsenyev. In this episode, a friend commented saying, I actually became interested in fictional literary works. I believe this friend listened attentively to the program and thus made this profound remark. Probably he originally thought literature is fictional, has no practical use, and wouldn't spark my interest. But after listening to the program, he was actually moved. The sudden emotion stems from the useless use of literature. It helps you discover your rich inner self, express your soul's secrets, and thus gain freedom and composure. Exactly. Fiction is a major feature of literature. It's a realm full of imagination and emotion, and nothing showcases these better than poetry. On Monday, we'll discuss On Poetry, a representative work by the aesthetician Mr. Zhu Guangqing. When feelings are in the heart, they become aspirations. When spoken, they become poetry. Emotions stood within take form in words. Poetry is the most direct expression of emotions, even a concentrated outburst. When Goethe talked about his poetry writing, he once described himself as a gambler staking it all. He said he was immersed in an extreme state of frenzy where no worldly treasures could pull him away. This passion is also why poetry and song were originally one and the same. So, how did poetry develop to today? How do we appreciate poetry? How do we understand the realms of emotion and imagery, the self and the selfless? A great aesthetician, Mr. Zhuguangchan, will provide detailed answers for you. Poetic beauty isn't only in poetry. Border Town, which we'll discuss on Tuesday, is also a novel full of poetic charm. We know that over thousands of years, the world has changed dramatically, yet we may not know that in a remote village in western Hunan, people have lived with triviality and dignity, crying and laughing sincerely despite hardships. The author Shen Kumwen himself claimed that Border Town is a pure poem. With poetic strokes, he constructed the beautiful world of Western Hunan, where Kuchui and her grandfather's ferry boat and Nuasang brothers' love songs have become iconic images in Chinese literary history. However, not all classic literary images are poetic. Some are not so beautiful. Like this Wednesday, we're covering The Tin Drum. The hero Oscar is a dwarf, ugly in appearance, and he just coldly watches the even uglier adult world. Nowadays, Oscar, with that drum slung over his chest, acting all exaggerated, has become the symbol of that dark history when fascism was rampant. So, if fiction is about explaining what happens in our world and how our hearts find peace, well, Balzac is hailed as the master of social novels in that sense. Come Thursday, we're diving into his Old Gloriette. Let's chat about how people coexist in an era where money rules the heart. Just as Vautrin says in the book, that's all the morality we've got in our time. Vautrin's a character Balzac adored. He'd often bring him up in talks like, what would my Vautrin think? Actually, we sometimes debate who's more adorable, Lin Yu or Shui Bao Chai. It's like they're living right beside us. We step into their minds, feel their emotions, let it out, and come back to ourselves. That's the magic of fiction. This Friday, we're covering Madame Bovary, another fictional character who often feels real in our lives. Madame Bovary's unhappy with her reality. She tries to fill the void with affairs, but ends up poisoning herself because she's buried in debt. Flaubert cried buckets over Madame Bovary while writing it, and readers begged him in letters to let her live. But the author didn't bow to popular wishes. He stuck to fate's course, so Madame Bovary died anyway. After the novel came out, folks wrote Flaubert saying, "Hey, Madame Bovary's me." But we've no idea how they ended up. But one thing's sure, fictitious tragedies cleanse our souls. This Saturday, we're tackling The Count of Monte Cristo. And yep, it's a tragedy too. The hero, Edmond Dantes' revenge is full of twists, totally thrilling. But he did it all to defend his honor and beliefs. So after getting his revenge, Dantes didn't stick around to celebrate. He sailed off, sinking the ship, just a lonely figure, because he knew his journey wasn't over. This Sunday, A Passage to India airs, telling the story of British and Indian relations. In the novel, Aziz, an Indian, and the British, led by Mrs. Moore, want to cross racial barriers and build friendships, but still end up with misunderstandings and conflicts. The novel doesn't blame anyone or debate rights and wrongs. Instead, through these characters' struggles, it expresses a higher intent that blending different cultures worldwide is the path to freedom and truth. Of course, everyone has different takes on these seven classic works, and you're totally welcome to argue with me about it. Okay, and that's exactly the charm of literature, the magic of fiction. Our real world is murky and unclear, with all kinds of events and emotions tangled up together. I believe any single moment in our hearts is enough for a writer to pen a whole thick book. So ultimately, fiction isn't about making you envy or pity those made up characters. It's about diving into emotions and imagination to reflect on life, discover your hidden self and unspoken meanings, helping you stay calm inside when reality feels unfree. I know you're always pushing toward a goal. This time, for better company, Emma Storytelling picked 56 of the most popular books from over 600 available ones. Here you've got academic classics and hot new bestsellers. The best books worth listening to in 2018 are all in this annual list. The link's right in the transcript below the audio. Go ahead and check them out to hear books you want to read but never have time for. That's it for this episode's recommendations. Next up is the Science Theme Week, hosted by Chen Yan. We'll chat with you about stories on the human body. All right, see you next time.